Welcome. We're glad to see everybody. We changed venue this year just to see if everyone could find their way back to McKinnon Center. It looks like we were successful. We'll see what we can do next year if we can find a more difficult location. I'd like to thank the Martin Middle School Jazz Band for their efforts this morning. We've been doing this for a lot of years, having the bands here, and it's always amazing to me that we've not repeated, and there's so many bands and they're all so good. And so since Dr. Merrill is not here with us any longer, I just wanted to say to the jazz students that get breakfast, because as Dr. Merrill used to tell all the music students, that's what that's how you get paid in the music business. You get a free meal, so enjoy it while you can. We have some school board members here with us, and I have to confess that I'm not sure who all is here. I saw Bill Fletcher. Is anybody else from the school board here with us? Monica's here? Okay, our chair is here too. So thank you both for being here with us. One of our members is a professor here at NC State, and when I talked to him about coming, he said that he actually had an 8 o'clock class this morning, and I told him that I didn't realize that the students allowed the university system to give them 8 o'clock classes anymore. And he said, oh yeah. And so anyway, I was surprised by that. As we recognize the school board, we also want to take and recognize a little bit of a sad time for both Wake County Public Schools and the school board. This past Sunday evening, one of our school board members died unexpectedly, Ms. Kathy Hartenstein. And so I'd like to just take a moment of silence for her behalf, if we could, please. Thank you. Also, I'd like to recognize those members of the STC that are here, the School to Career Council, if they would stand and be recognized. I'm sure we got a few. Here's Ashley, there's Richard. So thank you all for all your hard work. You can see them listed up there on the screen. We had something that was really great happen to us this year. Wake Economic Development gave us some money for this breakfast, and so that was awesome. They're our sponsor. We've never really had a sponsor for this, and so we'd like to thank Adrian and her team for sponsoring. This is great. We have had the best relationship with the chamber that we've had in years since Adrian's taken over. So it's really great to have you all here and represented and supporting us. So if all the members of the business community would stand and be recognized. If all our educators would stand and be recognized. This relationship started in 1996, and I know many of you have heard me tell the story about the analogy of the 7th grade dance, but we're now dancing pretty regularly, and it's great to see. So thank you both communities for your hard work and engagement in making this very successful. As many of you know, looking up on the stage, we have a new superintendent this year, and that's exciting. As I was talking to her earlier, I said she's a graduate of both NC State and UNC, and she's doing some doctoral work at ECU. And I said, doesn't get much better than hitting the 3 main universities. I said, you can support everybody, and everybody ought to be able to support you. But the thing that's really neat about Superintendent Moore is she is a passionate and dedicated educator. And oftentimes we don't see that. And so I just want to read a couple things that I wrote. Her previous job, she was Deputy Superintendent of Academic Advancement. She was an area superintendent in Central Region. She was a high school principal at Sanderson High School. She was assistant principal at Apex and Enloe High School. She was a teacher at Enloe High School and Northern Nash High School. She was also recognized as the North Carolina Central Region Principal of the Year in 2008. She was also the Wake County Principal of the Year in 2007 and 2008. So as you see, not only is she an educator, but she's a good one. In addition, she's won numerous awards and sits on many committees of prominence. I think the thing that, as I was researching, that I found that really struck a chord with me is what the school board wrote about her as they made their selection. Ultimately, the board was extremely pleased to find the best person for the job after a national search was right here at home. Board members feel strongly that Miss Moore's leadership, long-term experience in Wake County Public Schools, and her dedication to the students will serve the students, staff, and community well for years to come. I don't think anybody could get a better recommendation and a higher compliment than that. So with that, I'm going to turn the podium over to Superintendent Moore and let her talk to her first school to career group about her vision and her views.
Good morning. So I've been attending these for years, and I don't know how many of you went to PNC, but I did. But I got here on time because I left early enough. So, thank you for the opportunity to be with you here this morning and for your continued support of our school system. Before I begin, I would like to bring attention to the work of Bill Seiler because he didn't quite toot his horn loud enough. He has been the leader of and the chair of the School to Career Council for 23 years here in Wake County. So. He was joking that people were going to be ready to hear from somebody else, and then I did the fine wine thing, and I've just decided that if Bill Seiler is not able to do this, then we'll stop having these, right? So I also want to issue some special thanks to all of our Business Alliance members, our Career Academy and Advisory Board members there, the Career Advisory Team members, and all of the business partners who support our middle and high schools. Our students are the ultimate winners of this work that the business community engages in with principals, administrators, the CDCs, the Career Academy CDCs, and the Career Advisory Team leaders. That partnership is important. And then I'd also like to join Bill in thanking the Martin Middle School GT Band this morning, and also the Middle Creek High School Digital Media Career Academy who are recording this morning's event. And I'd also like to join Bill in thanking Wake Economic Development as a sponsor of this year's Superintendent's Breakfast. I have, in my new role, come to know the folks at the Chamber very well in the last few months. They are staunch supporters of this district, and it is a strong partnership that I know will continue. So, many of you know that our strategic plan, Vision 2020, has just one goal. That goal is that by 2020, WCPSS will annually graduate at least 95% of its students ready for productive citizenship as well as higher education or a career. This goal reflects our community's understanding and our belief that graduates today require skills far beyond the types that can be measured solely by a standardized test. We are making good progress towards that goal. Our graduation rate, again this year, is the highest in the school system's history since we began measuring it, at 89.1. marking 6 straight years of growth. More importantly, improvement in the graduation rate for low-income students, our African American students, those gains are larger than that of the general population, so we are continuing to close gaps, and that is important. More than 2/3 of the Wake County Public School System's high schools have a graduation rate that is higher than 90%. 5, our early colleges, have graduation rates of 100%. And several schools have seen climbs of 10 percentage points or more in the past 6 years. And we're seeing this at the same time that we're stressing the importance of solving problems in classrooms, not just memorizing answers. I want to also bring attention to a part of our strategic plan that we haven't talked about as much in the last few years, but really is the foundation of our work. And that is our core beliefs. There are 6 core beliefs in the plan. These core beliefs were defined by parents, community members, business members, educators, students, leaders, a wide variety of folks who came together when the plan was created in 2015. So I want to talk specifically about core belief number 1, which reads that every student is uniquely capable and deserves to be challenged in relevant, rigorous, and meaningful learning each day. And if you've heard me talk about this core belief, you look at the first 2 words and the last 2 words. Every student, and then each day. That is what it takes in order to reach our goals and accomplish the mission that we've set forth, and we can do no less for our students. This core belief is about the opportunity that the public school system provides to students every single day. There are many ways to provide students with relevant and rigorous opportunities, and many of you help provide those opportunities. Those opportunities are critical to our students every day if we are to reach that goal. As employers, principals, teachers, you understand that it's not just what students know, but what they can do with what they know that will determine their success after graduation. That is one reason that industry-recognized credentials are important in our schools. Students in career and technical education have opportunities to demonstrate their skills through the acquisition of a variety of credentials. In 2016-17, nearly 12,500 credentials were earned by high school students. And we believe that 2017-18 numbers will exceed 13,000. The school board is also expected to approve a policy change soon that will allow students who earn in these industry credentials in career and technical education courses to use those credentials as a measure of technical attainment in lieu of the standardized tests that they've been taking. Yay. There are also other ways to measure the opportunities that are provided by all of you in this room and our community to our students. Last year, 1,016 students participated in job shadowing. 1,584 students participated in internships. We're also expanding our opportunities for apprenticeships, with 11 students registered in apprenticeships this year. And in August, you hosted nearly 700 teachers in a half-day industry immersion experience. I'm not just trying to run a roll call here to make us feel better at our annual gathering. Our data is clear that when businesses are directly involved in our schools and engaged in our programs, the graduation rates of our students are significantly higher. And let me be a little bit more specific. The graduation rate for students involved in the programs you support is more than 99%. Our students who are CTE concentrators, which means they complete an upper level course in a program pathway or strand, students who are CTE concentrators had 100% graduation rate. These students already meet and exceed the standard that the community has actually set forth in our strategic plan. But if we increase the number of students that concentrate in an area of study, we can then have a stronger impact on the overall district graduation rate. So we're not satisfied. There's yet room to grow. More important than all of these numbers, however, is a message that I want to leave you with this morning. I want you to know that your efforts matter, your partnership is appreciated, because we all know that what starts here changes everything. Thank you. Thank you for the invitation, and thank you for your attention this morning.
Thank you, Kathy. We appreciate that. And for those of you that are parents, the thing that I always find interesting is that we're in an area where we have a lot of educated folks, and a lot of folks want their child to go and get that 4-year degree. But they always challenge. I know I had one son that I used to pray every night hoping I'd get him out of high school, which we finally did. But when you start looking at the graduation rates on the CTE concentrators, and that's where he excelled. And a lot of parents think, well, you know, that's not for me, or for my child. But believe me, those kids get excited, and when you get to talk to them, you find out that those courses really make an impact on them. So keep that in mind if you're a parent like I was that used to pray every night that you'd get this child through 12 years of education. Our co-chair of the School to Career is a young lady by the name of Wanda Denning, and I think she knows more people than God. But whenever I work with Wanda, I'm always amazed when we start talking about different people, and she goes, oh yeah, I know them. Oh yeah, I know them. But Wanda has got a passion for education, and she has been on the School to Career Council for many, many years. She's also the region chairperson for the Business Alliance down in the southern part of the county, down in Fuquay, and she's very active on the Fuquay Business Alliance. And she has done a phenomenal job getting people exposed to Wake County Public Schools. And so I am going to do what I was supposed to do initially and turn the program over to Wanda.
Thank you, Bill. That only means I've been around for a long time. It's my pleasure this morning to share some facts with you. This first slide reflects the number of contacts that our middle and high school students have had by this School to Career initiative this past year. Over 246,489 middle and high school student contacts were involved in School to Career activities. We had over 17,011 adult volunteers involved with our schools and our School to Career curriculum. Many of you in this room are responsible for these numbers, and for that we thank you. We currently have 19 career academies. A career academy is a smaller cohort of learning community within a school that focuses on career themes and integrates students' CTE studies with their core curriculum course. Academy students participate in numerous work-based activities such as job shadowing, career fairs, career-themed industry tours, and internships. All students in Career Academy must complete the 135 internship by their senior year. The teaching of those soft skills or applied skills are integrated into the curriculum. Each Career Academy has a career advisory board made up of business volunteers, representatives from higher education that are specific to that themed academy. They work with the Career Academy coordinators, the students, and the academy teachers to help support the Career Academy. This summer at the NAF Next Conference, the 2018 Mobile App Fan Favorite Award went to two students from Enloe's Medical Bioscience Academy. Uday Burke and Jeffrey Lee are the students that received that award. Their app was Respirate. It's a user-friendly app that implements pulmonary rehabilitation to provide a more accessible resource to those diagnosed with COPD and other respiratory diseases. This is the second year in a row that Enloe has won the Fan Favorite App Award. Also at the NAF Next Conference this summer, Angie Melton, the Career Academy CDC at Sanderson High School's Academy of Finance, was one of three recipients of the 2018 Janet Linton Leadership Award. This award is given to the most outstanding academy directors in the NAF network. Our career academies had a 99.8% graduation rate. Superintendent Moore showed you earlier in a slide the CTE concentrators in Wake County had a 100% graduation rate. Again, the data supports when students are concentrating in a particular area of study, graduation rates are higher, and the potential for future success is greater. Overall, biology end-of-course proficiency is higher for Career Academy students. In this slide and the slides that follow, you will see how our Career Academy students compare to non-academy students in schools with career academies and other Wake County high schools. End-of-course sophomore English 2 scores are also higher. This shows the ACT scores for Career Academy juniors. The ACT plan is given to 10th graders and is a great way to prepare them for the ACT test that all students take as juniors. This shows that Career Academy 10th grade graders ACT plan score. Now, it is my pleasure to introduce to you two of our outstanding students in our school system, and I'll introduce both of them to speak this morning. Are they both? Okay, good deal. First speaker will be Lily Canton. She's a freshman at East Wake High School. She attended Zebulon GT Magnet School for 3 years. During those years, she was a student in Family and Consumer Science classes as well as other CTE classes. She was a member of Zebulon Middle School Family and Consumer Leaders of America, that's FCCLA for those of you that like the abbreviations, and we have them everywhere, so between the school system and NC State, you can't miss them. So, she was in FCCLA for 3 years. As a member of that group, she completed North Carolina State Fair baking competitions, winning first and second place all 3 years, and winning second place for the King Arthur Special Baking Competition with her awesome brownies. Did you bring any? She completed the FCCLA Star events at state conference all 3 years, scoring high gold, which allowed her to compete at FCCLA Nationals all 3 years of middle school. In 8th grade, she was elected and served as president of the Zebulon Middle School FCCLA chapter. In addition to school, Lily is an active member of Zebulon Baptist Church Youth Group, and she stays involved with her community activities as a resident of the town of Zebulon. Our second speaker will be Sydney Brown. Sydney is a senior at Southeast Raleigh Magnet High School. She's a member of the NAF Academy of Engineering, National Honor Society, Beta Club, Student Government Association, and is on the women's golf team. In her spare time, if she had some, she enjoys cooking, organizing, design, and architecture. May I introduce to you Lily and Sydney.
Good morning. My name is Lily Canton, and I am a freshman at East Wake High School. Prior to attending East Wake, I was a student for 3 years at Zebulon GT Magnet Middle School. Zebulon Middle offered me many opportunities to learn and grow as an individual. One of the most influential aspects of my middle school years were taking classes in the CTE department, FACS department, and being a member of the Family, Career, and Community Leaders of America Club. When I began middle school in 6th grade, I saw that there were so many opportunities for me to learn and explore all of the club offerings. I took several classes in the CTE areas and also in FACS. All of these classes helped me learn a variety of skills, from learning proper food techniques and safety skills, earning my babysitting certification with the American Red Cross, learning about finances to how a business operates. I was also taught about public speaking, which helped me become more confident. While researching clubs that were offered at my school, FCCLA caught my eye. After attending the first meeting with my advisor, I knew that FCCLA was the place for me. I became involved in district meetings that our school attended at Wesleyan University. The turning point for me was learning about the opportunities to compete at the state level with STAR projects. My excitement led me to enter the entrepreneurship area of competition at the state level in Greensboro, North Carolina. For competition, I learned the ins and outs of businesses, from hiring employees to obtaining financial backing from investors, and how to market my business. The competition was intimidating because I had to speak in front of judges about my topic. However, my advisor through FCCLA helped me prepare and gain confidence through public speaking. At the end of the competition, I was thrilled to find out that I had scored well enough with the judges that we were invited to attend FCCLA Nationals in San Diego, California. Who would have ever thought a 6th grader from Zebulon, North Carolina would be going to compete in California with students from all 50 states? It was an amazing experience. For the next 2 summers after that, I was asked to attend FCCLA Nationals in Nashville, Tennessee, and Atlanta, Georgia. I also became president of our school's FCCLA chapter and prepared meeting agendas and led our group in discussions and decisions. This experience would have never been possible without FCCLA and the Family and Consumer Science courses that I took. I am so grateful to the Wake County Public School System for providing myself and other students the opportunity to take classes in the Family and Consumer Science courses and Career and Technical Education departments. The skills that I have gained through classes in these areas and FCCLA will help me grow as a leader, not only in my school, but also when I enter college and into my career. Amazing teachers and classes have empowered me to be ready to serve my community and others as a high school student and into the future.
Good morning. My name is Sydney Brown, and I am a senior at Southeast Raleigh Magnet High School, and it is a very good pleasure to speak with all of you today. I have been in the NAF Engineering Academy at Southeast Raleigh for the past 4 years, and the Engineering Academy has offered me so many great opportunities, such as multiple field trips to industry in the field, and an internship at Lenovo, and a community of students with similar interests, which is very important in high school. And I also got mentors that could help me achieve my goals in my career field of interest, which is architecture. Because of my passionate interest in architecture, the Engineering Academy was able to team up with a program called ACE Mentoring, which helps students in architecture, construction, and engineering. This program that I was a part of allowed me to be able to get a job shadowing at a young age and was able to understand how to make connections in architecture and how to understand how design works at a lower level at high school. Over the course of my time in the engineering academy, I knew that I needed to become more skilled in technology in order to be successful. Therefore, because the academy is a NAV academy, I was able to get an internship at Lenovo to further my understanding in technology. I would personally like to thank NAV and Lenovo for giving high schoolers my age such a wonderful opportunity to broaden our perspectives in our careers. It was because of my internship at Lenovo that I had exposure to the corporate environment at a young age and gained knowledge about technology I would have never known before. Going to high school into a corporate environment was very challenging because, being young is definitely something that is definitely new, but because of Lenovo's supportive staff, I was able to adjust very well and be prepared to the corporate world after college. Although my career interest in architecture did not change after my internship at Lenovo, Lenovo better prepared me for what the corporate environment was going to be like, which is equally important. I am eternally grateful for the experiences I have gotten from the Engineering Academy because it prepared me for not only what my future career was going to be like, but for what my upcoming start in college was going to be. I hope that many students in the future will join the Engineering Academy at Southeast Raleigh and they will use all the many benefits it has to offer and meet some very influential and incredible people along the way. Thank you so much.
I knew we'd eventually get an ace student up here. For those of you that don't know, I am also the chairman of ACE Mentoring, which is a high school program. And Sydney, I remember when I looked over this morning and realized who she was from Southeast Raleigh. So it's great to see some of our young people that are in the program excel the way she has. So now I can do what I started out earlier to do. So introduce our keynote speaker. Unfortunately, Dr. Walden, you get to follow the young people, and oftentimes that's a challenge, but I know you're up for it. Dr. Walden got his PhD from Cornell University, and he's been at NC State since 1978. So he's seen the area grow by leaps and bounds. He's a William Neal Reynolds Distinguished Professor and Extension Economist in the Department of Agriculture and Resource Economics at NC State University. Now that's a mouthful. He's a member of the Graduate Economic Facility with the Poole College of Management. He's published 12 books and over 300 articles and reports, including his newest book, North Carolina Beyond the Connected Age, the Tar Heel State in 2050. So if you haven't had a chance to look at that, it's interesting to see what his thoughts are after being here for the last 40 years, what he sees for the next 50 years. He has served on several local and state level commissions, including the Governor's Welfare Reform Task Force, the School Capital Construction Legislative Study Commission, and the Blue Ribbon Committee for the Future of Wake County. Dr. Walden is also a celebrity. He's frequently seen and heard and read in the media. He has a daily radio program aired on stations around North Carolina for which he's won 2 national awards. He's appeared on all the national TV stations as well. He's got a biweekly column, You Decide, that is carried by 40 newspapers in the state. He directs the semi-annual economic forecast called the North Carolina Economic Outlook, for which he's won numerous, and in addition, he's won numerous academic and public awards. He's gotten many awards, but the 2 that I thought were really interesting, he's got the Order of the Longleaf Pine and the Holiday Medal for Excellence from North Carolina State University, which I think speaks very highly of Dr. Walden. And then on top of this, I did some research, and I talked to a lot of people, and I found out that generally, all around, he's a pretty good guy. So I'm going to give you our keynote speaker, Dr. Walden.
Well, that last comment was a relief. Thank you. I want to recognize a couple people. First, my good friend Bill Fletcher. It seems like Bill, everywhere I go, you're there. You keep your ear to the ground on everything going on, not just education, but economic development, and Adrian's involved with. Then I want to recognize my lovely wife, Mary. She's put up with me for almost 40 years, but for you, it's important for you to know that she was an elementary school teacher for 32 years. Well, thank you for inviting me. I'm sorry? You're still hiring. Okay, well, Mary, there you go. Well, thank you very much for inviting me. It's a pleasure to speak to this large crowd, and obviously a group that I feel very committed to, because really success starts here. If you're, Madam Superintendent, if you're looking for a new slogan, I think that would be one to think about. Success starts here. It really does in the Wake County Public Schools. And of course, when we do recruit for businesses, which we do increasingly in Raleigh and Wake County, business from all around the country, all around the world, this is a big selling point, this system, Wake County Public Schools. So you are part of something much broader. Mary's always told me that I need to start with maybe a little levity so that people understand that economists actually do have a sense of humor. So I've been using this story for a while. I don't think, well, Bill's probably heard it because Bill comes to a lot of my presentations. But anyway, the story I want to relate to you, actually it sounds rather morbid. It concerns the great and late comedian Bob Hope. Bob Hope, I feel a little connection to him because he's an Ohioan, although he was born in England, grew up in Cleveland. I'm from Cincinnati. He, of course, well known for entertaining the troops throughout several generations. My father was aware of him when my father was in the South Pacific during World War II. Mary and I got to see Bob Hope live over at Reynolds Coliseum, 1986, I think, Mary, on stage for, 2 hours with Jim Valvano. That was an evening that I'll never forget, non-stop entertainment. Anyway, the story is Bob Hope is dying. He lived to be 100. He's near the end. He's at home in his bed with his family. The doctor comes by daily to check on him. So one day the doctor checks and calls Bob Hope's wife aside and said, "It's time. You need to call the family." So the family comes. They're all assembled around Bob Hope's bed. Wife Dolores right there by his side. And Bob Hope suddenly opens his eyes. He's conscious. And his wife leans into him and to his ear and says, "Sweetheart, there's something we've not discussed. Where do you want to be buried?" And to show you that Bob Hope had his wit until the very end, he looks at his wife and says, "Surprise me." True story. And I think the reason I use that story, first of all, I'm a big fan of Bob Hope, but I think there's some meaning there. We don't want to be surprised. And you and others look to economists, at least in terms of economic surprises, you look to economists thinking that we can forecast the future and that we can prevent surprises. And I'll let you judge, and not just me but others, whether that can happen. And that's one reason why I wrote this latest book, which takes a look at where North Carolina might be going in the next 4 decades. Incidentally, this book does make a good gift. If you have a spouse and there's an important anniversary coming up, for example, and you get the hardback copy of this book, which has a little weight to it, you wrap it in some good, nice paper with a nice bow, give it to your special someone. Your special someone takes that and goes, "Oh, this is going to be great," and opens it. When your special someone realizes what it is, there will be a look. There'll be a look. I've asked people to take snapshots of those looks and send them to me. I'll probably put them, maybe that'll make for another book. But anyway, what this book does is tries to look into the future, look at the trends that have been going on, look into the future and give us some sense of where North Carolina might be going. And so I want to highlight some of those trends. Start with probably the easiest one, and that is that North Carolina will be growing. We will add people. Right now we're sitting at about 10.2 million people. I think since Mary and I came here in the late 70s, I don't know, we doubled in population. I mean, we've been one of the fastest growing states in the country for a long time. I project 13.4 million people in 2050, so an increase of about 3 million people. Now, that growth is not going to be even across the state. One of the things that we have seen, and I imagine many of you know, is that in the last several decades, our metropolitan areas, like this one, have been growing the fastest. And some of our rural counties have not been growing, and that's an issue. You've heard of the urban-rural divide. That's an issue. In fact, the forecast is that over the next 4 decades, a third of our counties, about 30 of our 100 counties, will actually depopulate. And that's going to raise a whole host of issues, already is. Now, in terms of our area here, and specifically in terms of Wake County, growth will continue. I estimate that between now, we're a few years past the 2010 census, but between now and 2050, we will add at least 60% to our population base in Wake County. So I think one big takeaway for you, one big takeaway for our Wake County Public School System leadership is that we're going to need to accommodate more students. We're going to need to build more school buildings because growth will be coming and continue to come to Wake County. And you can't say that for all the counties. A second easy, I think, forecast is that we're going to get older. Well, let me rephrase that. We're all going to get older. Our population profile is going to get older. For example, my generation, 65 and over, and I wish, I won't ask you how old you think I am, but 65 looks pretty good to me now. I wish I was 65, I should say. 65 and over population in terms of percentage of North Carolina's total population is forecasted to go from 13%, which it was in the 2010 census, to almost 22% in the 2050 census. So we are going to see more folks around who almost, what is that? Almost, that's 1 in 4, 1 in 5, almost 1 in 4 folks around who are over age 65. Now, at the same time, the population you deal with, young people, we are going to add numbers. You are going to add numbers, but the percentage of our population in North Carolina that is, say, between 5 and 18 is going to go down. And the same thing for the population I deal with, college children. So we're going to have more of them. I don't want you to say there are going to be fewer kids between 5 and 18, and I don't want you to think we're going to have fewer kids between 18 and 22, but as a percent of the population, that's going to go down. So we are going to be an aging society, and that's pretty much the case. We're not unique. All around the country, indeed all around the world, we are an aging world. Now, I don't get into politics. I never do. But I do want to point out that some predict this is going to set up a generational clash for public resources. And public resources are obviously very, very important to you. Very, very important to all public school systems. But the requirements, or what people look for from their government, in part depends on their age. So, for example, for the elderly population, they're looking to government and looking at those programs that support them. So Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid. Now you might say, well, Social Security and Medicare are federal programs, and you're right, but Medicaid is a joint federal-state program, and indeed, if you look at North Carolina, indeed look at most states, the percentage of the state budget that is being allocated for Medicaid has been rising dramatically and will continue to rise. So our state leaders are going to have more demands put on them by the growing elderly population to support North Carolina's contribution to Medicaid, for example. And obviously you and public schools all around the state, as well as my industry, the higher education, we depend very crucially on the state, as well as locals, but the state for support, public support. And we're going to be looking at, as I will go through, probably greater demands on what we do. And so we're going to be looking to funds, increasing funds from the state. So you've got these two polar extremes, if you will, in the population profile that may end up competing. So I'm not sounding an alarm bell here, but I do think that's a trend that you will increasingly see. And in terms of your ability to get public funds, I think it's important for you to realize that. And I'm not a political scientist, but in terms of working with older groups and weaving together common goals, that might be the route to go. Another easier forecast is that a lot of industries are going to change. I talk in the book, and again, the book is North Carolina Beyond the Connected Age. Remember anniversaries and birthdays. I get about every copy that's sold, I get about 7 cents. So really you're supporting the University of North Carolina System Press. But industries are going to change. One of the interesting changes that many predict is going to be in manufacturing. Manufacturing, of course, is a traditional sector that's gone through a lot of changes. We've actually seen a boost in manufacturing jobs recently, but I think the trend is going to be down because manufacturing is an industry that is very ripe for automation, very ripe for technology, very ripe for robots. And so I think the employment in manufacturing after this maybe a little blip that we're seeing in a recovery from the Great Recession will still be down. But the interesting thing that some futurists say is going to happen with manufacturing is it's going to move away from factories and move into the home. Things like 3D manufacturing. And now they're talking about 4D manufacturing. Some say that they can conceive a traditional home in decades in the future where just like you have a refrigerator, just like you have a washer dryer, just like you have a stove, you will have somewhere in your home a 3D manufacturing machine that if you need a new TV, if you want a new TV, you plug in the features you want, and bammo, that machine produces you your TV. And depending on the size of the 3D manufacturing machine, they've already produced vehicles from it. So that's I find that a very, very interesting trend. I mean, that would be a major change to our society. Another industry that many say is going to change, and I think this in a very good way, is healthcare. And again, as I age, I'm more cognizant of healthcare and like to keep good connections with my personal physician, so she likes me and makes sure she tells me everything I need to do. Whether I listen or not is another matter. But many say that and of course, we have an issue with healthcare with cost. Many say that technology is increasingly going to come to healthcare. Some say, for example, in the future, we will all be wired. Maybe we'll be wired in ways that we just accept it, where information about our status, kind of like the smartwatches, information about our status, medical status, constantly will be sent to our doctor's offices, and that'll be examined probably by machines. And so we'll get a constant, our doctor and our physicians will get constant readouts of where we are, what's happening, and that will allow them to get forewarnings of problems and get treatment before bad things happen. So that's something perhaps to hopefully look forward to. But the biggest, I think, change, and I think the change that most affects this group and what you do, and affects education all the way from K through 12 through community college and four-year colleges, is what futurists think is going to happen to the labor market. Clearly, everyone knows how technology has dramatically changed the labor market. When I came to NC State in 1978, we did not have computers. We did not have smartphones. I did all of my writing. I remember I wrote my first book. Mary can attest to this. I wrote my first book longhand on legal pads and then gave my scrawl to administrative assistant. It was the administrative assistant's job to try to read my scrawl and type it. And then, of course, give me drafts back. I go through, make changes. Thank goodness for whiteout. In fact, that reminds me of a story. I had a colleague who wrote papers, obviously. It's one of the things you do research, write papers, write books as an academic. And he was famous for being very picky about, he would go over his papers 4, 5, 6 times until it satisfied him. And I remember I overheard his administrative assistant telling a colleague, this guy thinks he's so smart. I don't think he is, because he makes all these mistakes. He's constantly giving me these drafts to rewrite and redo. Anyway, clearly technology is affecting our workplace. About 5 years ago, there were 2 British economists, Osborne and Fry, who really made a big splash, probably the biggest splash in years that economists have made, where they published a paper after painstakingly looking at over 700 different occupations and talking to experts about how those occupations could be affected by technology. They predicted that 47% of the occupations that existed in 2013 would not exist in 2040. 47%. It'd be gone. And of course, the big question is, well, what would they be replaced by? Well, they didn't get into that. Now, since then, there have been many other pieces of research that have updated that. Some have questioned that. In fact, the most recent paper, interestingly, I think it was Osborne and Fry, actually collaborated on this most recent piece of research, and they revised downward. The 47% is now down to around 25%. But I think the bottom line here is whatever number it is, that we are going to see some jobs, some occupations taken over by technology, taken over by robots. To go back to my example in the university, administrative assistants, I think when I came to NC State, we probably had 1 administrative assistant for every 4 faculty. And again, these were the days when books and manuscripts had to be typed up. There was no voicemail. Someone called in. I remember my door would be, when I was away teaching class, I'd come back, my door would have these yellow notes stuck to them. That's a phone call that I missed, and I needed to return the call. Of course, all that is now done by technology. In fact, new faculty that we hire, and myself increasingly, I'm actually, my late mother was very wise in recommending when I went to high school. I don't know why she did this, but she said, take a typing class, which I did. Actually, I can go pretty fast. So if this education thing, university thing doesn't work out, I can go somewhere where I can be a typist. But now I think in my department, and we have about 40 faculty, tenure track faculty in my department, I think we have maybe 4 administrative assistants. And they do much different things than their forerunners did 4 decades ago. So the job market is changing. And I think a big concern is, number one, will there be jobs for people in the future? There's a gentleman named Martin Ford. In fact, he was the keynote speaker 3 years ago at the NC State Emerging Issues Forum. And he has, what is his book? Is his book called The End of Work? Anyway, you can Google Martin Ford. He's very pessimistic about whether there will be meaningful jobs in the future, because he sees artificial intelligence. He sees the increasing dexterity of robots. He sees algorithms that are increasingly sophisticated at making decisions. He sees a lot of jobs simply being taken over by machines, and raising the question about, well, what will we do? I'm not going to go that far. I think Ford may be overstating it, but I do think that the labor market is obviously, we can see before our eyes, changing and will continue to change, which means What is the answer to that? Well, the answer to that is obviously education. And what I think we will increasingly see, for example, at my level, and where I've had the opportunity, I've told this to my superiors, Chancellor Woodson, President Spellings, et cetera, is I think at the college level, increasingly we're going to see, in addition to the 18 to 22-year-olds, and of course stay for graduate degrees older, but we're going to see more 30-year-olds, 40-year-olds, 50-year-olds coming back to community colleges, coming back to four-year colleges and universities to not maybe add to their occupation, take some courses that add to their occupation, but in order to train in a totally different occupation, because their occupation has now been being done by technology. So what we need to do at that level, the college level, is make sure we're ready for those folks. Those folks are not going to be able to be on the 7-year plan like some of my undergraduates are. They're going to need to get in and out fast. It has to be cost effective. It has to be focused education. And that is going to come back to you. And of course, what this group does, which as I understand it, is represents the collaboration that Wake County Public Schools has with the business community, with the real world. I mean, I can't think of anything better. So I think what you do is going to be increasingly elevated in importance, because to know what kind of skills young people need in the future, we're going to have to listen more to the business world who knows what's happening on the ground. So I applaud what you do, and I think what you do is going to become increasingly important. So I think that's going to be the greatest challenge for North Carolina, indeed for the country and the world, is the changing job market. Well, in closing, let me say this. I'm actually working on a new book. It'll be my 13th, which looks at, I guess that's an unlucky number. So Mary, I'm going to have to go to 14, I guess. There'll be one after this. But I'm actually working on a new book, which is an issues book. So I'm looking at all the major issues of the time. Things like income inequality, income mobility, healthcare, poverty, gender pay inequity, et cetera, all the major economic, social issues of the time. And when I read about those issues and I read about solutions, what is the component of the solution that I see time and time again in every one of these? Education. Education is a key part of virtually every issue that we are looking at. So you are part of probably the most important institution that we have. I wish you the best of success. And again, one more time, I will say that success begins here. And Superintendent, if you want to borrow that, just send me the royalties for that suggestion. Thank you very much. And I do need to scoot. I don't have an 8 o'clock class, but I've got a 10 o'clock class, so I will need to scoot. Thank you very much for inviting me. I appreciate it.
Dr. Walden, before you scoot, we'd like to give you a little recognition.
Well, thank you.
It's a pen, I think, and
Okay.
I told them that you were going to have a book signing afterwards because you were trying to move this book. But if you got to scoot, we'll have to reschedule that. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Well, we come to the part of the program that is most exciting, where we get to recognize our business volunteers that have put in many, many hours to support our educators and our school system. One of the things that is up on every slide, and I don't know if everybody's noticed it, and Joy usually prompts me, but she didn't today, so I'm trying to be a little bit more forthright. We've got a hashtag up there, right?
Hashtag on the first page, and then there's hashtag.
Yeah, so if you are a tweeter or an Instagrammer or whatever you are, I'm a little bit like Dr. Walden. I'm of the senior age. Please take pictures and post about what's going on here. It would be most beneficial for all of us. And as Dr. Walden pointed out, we are, in fact, where it's all going to start. This is where the rubber meets the road. Just to remind everybody about the School to Career organization, there's 3 components that make up the School to Career Council and the organization: the business alliances, which a lot of people are engaged in, the career academies that we've heard people talk about. Wanda talked about it earlier, and I guess we talked about the CTE concentrators, but then when you start looking at the academies, although it's a smaller cohort group, they have extremely good results as well. So again, for all you parents that were like me, get your child in an academy. They seem to do well and graduate, so that's important. And then we have the advisory teams as well. So when we talk about our award winners today, they will represent one of those 3 organizations and will have contributed their time and energy to one of those 3. So without further ado, I'm going to call some names, and if they would be kind enough to come up here and then line up, and then we're going to have Wanda and Superintendent Moore up here, and we call your name. We'll say a few highlights about what the CDC, the principal, the CAC, whoever nominated you, and then we want a photo opportunity here for you, either for your family, your friends, your business, whatever works. So if you would be kind enough to do that, we'd appreciate it. So Terry Butler, Chris Mudler Charbonnet, Wilma Jenkins Flythe, Joel Lee, Missy Majorano, the Optimum team, Tanya Hughley McKenzie, Sola Amasi and Tim Thomason, Joseph Stallings, Steve Choquette, Mariam Ahmed, Dr. Charles Haar, and I think representing Dr. Haar is Denise Chernoff, Alexandria McGee, and Jeff Smith, if they would be kind enough to come up to the front of the room. I will. So our first nominee that we're going to recognize is Terry Butler, who's with the Business Alliance. He is an owner of Chick-fil-A franchise, and he works with the Mary E. Phillips High School. He's enrolled the high school into the Chick-fil-A Leadership Academy, which focuses on leadership skill development. He has sponsored the school for the last 2 years and is doing it again this year. And from what I understand, it's a rather expensive proposition, but it really looks to the commitment that Mr. Butler has made towards these students. And many of you know about Mary Phillips High School. It's one of our special high schools, but they meet a lot of needs of a lot of different students from a lot of diversity and a lot of backgrounds. They've also sponsored a reading program, his organization, through the Chick-fil-A Foundation. He brings his staff to the school and works with the students, and they've made, according to the CDC, a most positive impact on the students there at the school. So thank you very much for your passion and dedication. Have we got the photo? Oh, okay, Phil's doing it. He's hiding down there. I couldn't see you, Phil. Our next nominee is Chris Mudler Charbonnet with Knowledge Works Foundation, again, Business Alliance from Panther Creek High School. She's been involved in the BAA for the last 3 years. She's led and created and implemented Dare to Brand, which is a workshop to teach students how to build their own personal brand, which is really essential in today's world. She serves as a mentor to the marketing teachers. She's a DECA advisor. She works with the marketing CTE students on evaluating their projects, and she's coordinated an event with the students entitled Alternative Career/College Pathways. Thank you, Chris. Next is Wilma Jenkins Flythe. My name's William, so Wilma, I keep messing up there. I apologize. She's with the Business Alliance, and she represents the Wake Young Women's Leadership Academy. She's chair of the Wake Young Women's Leadership Academy Business Alliance. She's been a member for several years. Through her connections, she's been able to connect the students with programs and activities such as the First Total Wellness Symposium, senior scholarship opportunities she's been able to provide for those seniors, Major Clarity Workshop for the students, assured planning and coordinating of a conference for the SHE leadership, and she also participates in the county-wide programs, Extreme Beginnings. So we thank you for all your support, Wilma. Our next nominee is Joel Lee. I guess he's recipient. He's already been nominated. He's with the Business Alliance at the Vernon Malone College and Career Academy, which is many refer to as our vocation high school, although I don't, but it's neat to see someone that's engaged so efficiently and effectively there. He's been engaged with the school since it opened. He works with Edwards. He participates in mock interviews in both the fall and spring semesters. He's worked with the schools in having Edwards present in their programs there at the school. He's on the school on a regular basis, working with the students, helping them to put together career goals and helping them to understand how to achieve them. He participates in our countywide events, Extreme Beginnings and Great Explorations, and he has coordinated many off-site learning experiences. We used to call those field trips, but they're now called off-site learning experiences. So they have educated me as well, so we've been successful there. So thank you, Joel, for all your efforts. Our next recipient is Missy Majorano from Green Hope High School. She's been a member of the Business Alliance for 5 years. She's the chairperson of the Business Alliance. She does a lot of planning with the State Employees Credit Union on their program, the value of money. She's identified and connected and brought speakers to the school on many occasions. She has established a mock interview process that's being implemented by the school. She's worked with the Business Alliance to put together a soft skills training, and they've trained over 120 students on that. And she's recruited many new business members to come into the high school, which has really helped the Business Alliance gain strength. So thank you very much, Missy. I have to tell you that every year when we review these nominees and all the folks, that the CDCs and the CACs do a great job, and they're very passionate about the people that they nominate. But we have one CDC that gives me a book, and so that's Linda. And Linda knows who she is, and she does an outstanding job laying out, and they have a very active group of people that come to that school, the engineering academy over at Wake STEM. So anyway, this is the Optimum Team, United Health Team with the school, Tanya Hewley McKenzie, Sola Amasi, and Tim Thompson. So we're going to bring them up. I guess they have connected the school with many different organizations that are focused on healthcare across the United States. They've collaborated with the teachers to create relevant projects through the project-based learning modality using STEM professionals, like I said, across the United States through the internet. They've brought other Optimum employees as mentors for the program. They've provided office space for 58 10th graders to work on their projects called One Health. They have worked with 14 of the school 10th graders for job shadowing, and they've hired 8 high school interns. So they have really gone beyond the call of duty to help integrate not only what the students are doing, but with their organization as well. So thank you all very much. Our next award winner is Joseph Stallings, who is with the Town of Garner. He's an economic developer. He has led the development of a job readiness program that provides student skills for interviews with employees. As a result of this program, they've put over 300 students through this, and over 200 have participated in mock interviews as well. And one of the things that I find very interesting when I talk to the business community, oftentimes I hear the comment that your students are better prepared than any students we interview, even college students. So the fact that we see all these organizations understanding the need for soft skills and the interview skills is really quite gratifying to see. As the leader of the Job Fair Committee during the 2017-2018 school year, he was instrumental in recruiting between 35 and 40 businesses that came to the school, and then he also arranged news coverage. These economic developers are pretty phenomenal. They got a lot of contacts. As the economic developer, he has contacted local businesses to work with the high school, the Garner High School, Magnet High School, and has led to some great opportunities for the high school students. So thank you for all your work. Our next award winner is Steve Choquette with IBM. He is with the Durant Middle School, and the thing that I found interesting is that Steve's been doing this for 18 years. So he was one of those early members that found out how to dance early. So we appreciate Steve for doing it. Steve had sons that were at Durant, and they have since moved on, obviously, but he's recruited them to come back and work with the Durant Middle School as well. So Steve is an engineer, so he's very gifted in left brain technology type of things, but he has a passion for the engineering field, bringing engineers to the school, and as a result of it has made a tremendous impact on the school as well. He's stayed connected for all these years, a very dedicated and passionate person, so thank you very much, Steve. Our next recipient is Miriam Ahmed. She is I guess with the Career Academy, which is good. We're kind of changing here a little bit. With Athens Drive High School, she's with Wake Med. She's developed and worked with the students on a real-life project, My Chart, which many of you are probably familiar with your doctor. Doctor now, I think that's pretty common across most medical care facilities. She recruited and used 14 students to participate. The students worked with over 200 patients and accrued over 200 of internship hours. She then had the students make a presentation to the Wake Med Board of Directors about what they had done, and she's initiated a Wake Med ED initiative, which has allowed Academy students to volunteer and achieve hands-on experience with Wake Med. So very good opportunities as a result of all her hard work. Thank you. Our next recipient is Dr. Charles Haar, and accepting is a young woman named Denise Chernoff, who is a PA. But Dr. Haar, you may remember our speaker last year was a young man that was up here, was a senior, and he spoke of all these opportunities that he had received at Wake Med, and a lot of that was through Dr. Haar and his opportunities. He's allowed students to come and observe surgeries at Wake Med, has mentored several students, one of them as I spoke about earlier, and he takes the time to speak with the students at the Athens High's Drive event, and he was a keynote speaker at their Red Cord banquet, which I'm not really sure what that is, but what?
Graduation for seniors in the academy.
Okay, graduation for seniors in the academy. So there you have it. Thank you. Tell Dr. Hart we appreciate it. Last year, we had the first annual shed contest at Cary High School, and it was really pretty neat to see students that worked both in the drafting classes and the carpentry classes. The drafting classes put together the design, and the winners were then given computers, and they did the same thing again this year. And as you might imagine, it requires quite a bit of coordination and work. They recruit general contractors and they recruit subcontractors, and so it takes quite a bit of coordination. And so Jeff Smith with Brassfield and Gorey was this year's organizer of the shed contest. He recruited over 10 GCs. He oversaw the management of the event. It's a 2-day event, but it always ends up being 3 days because no one finishes. And so the students and the contractors come back on a Saturday and finish it, and then when the products are finished, they auction those off. So it's really a neat project. And him being the leader this year required a lot of effort, a lot of time, and we appreciate what he did on that. So thank you, Jeff. Our next recipient is Alexander McGee with Baker Roofing, and as many of you know, with Hurricane Florence, we really weren't sure if Alexander was going to be here. We thought she would be putting shingles on somebody's roof somewhere down east, but she made it here. Alex did something that was really pretty neat this year. As many of you know, they make a big deal out of athletes signing, and you see it on ESPN, and pro signing. And so with our students this year that were going to go on to a carpentry career, she set up a signing day. And so she had kids come in and with their employers, and they did a signing, which was really pretty neat. So she did that, plus she set up all the awards for the shed competition, both from the drafting standpoint and the carpenter standpoint. And so now everybody's talking about this signing day, what a great success it was, and so it's all due to Alex. Thank you. Now we have one more person to recognize, and I didn't call him up purposely because this individual is quite remarkable and done many, many things. They are on the School to Career Council, and so I always don't like to let everybody see that up front. Those folks that are on the council do a great job, but this individual really goes beyond the call of duty as a volunteer. And she has worked with joy, and as I said at the onset of the program, as a result of all her hard work, we are indebted to the Chamber of Commerce for what has taken place over the last several years that she's been here. She does a marvelous job getting market information to us so that we know what we need to be thinking about as a school system. She's worked closely over with the Business Alliance at the middle school, the Moore Square Middle School here in Raleigh, and has really made a big difference since moving back to Raleigh about 4 years ago. She's a dedicated and passionate employee and a dedicated and passionate volunteer as well. Ashley Cagle. So an event like this does not happen automatically, as many of you know. And So I always have to recognize my partner in crime who keeps me honest, Joy Frankoff. The thing that's very interesting is during the past year, Joy has become a grandmother, and so she's had a lot of changes. Her son, the baseball player, is playing baseball in Korea, and so Joy now gets to stay up all hours of day and night watching the internet for when Seth gets the opportunity to pitch. So you know, being the dedicated and passionate mom she is fantastic, but she's also a very dedicated and passionate employee of Wake County Public Schools. And we have been on the phone and on the internet for the last 2 weeks at very late hours, which is very unusual for me because I got to get my beauty sleep, as you can tell by looking at me. But without Joy, this does not really move forward. So we really appreciate all that you do for us, Joy. Also, as we recognized everybody a little bit earlier, and I had planned to do this, and I've since gotten 3 notes, but I wanted to do it at the end. I wanted to recognize all those folks that are with us today that are in the military. Would you please stand and be recognized? You know, it's interesting when you think back. Dr. Walden was talking about being a senior citizen, as am I. But in the age in which I grew up, we had the Vietnam War, and we did not really recognize our military. And I am excited to see that change and see that we have such great faith in our military because they do such a great job. So thank you all very much. So we come to an end of another one of these, and we again want to thank you all for your participation. I think Dr. Walden had some interesting concepts for us to think about. I noticed Adrian's eyes got big when he started talking about every home having its own manufacturing facility, and she was going, how in the world do you recruit for that? So I'm sure that what lies ahead, we have no idea, but I think the important thing is that you as educators will always have a job because all these young people that we bring through the doors at these schools need those opportunities to learn and to grow. And as I tell the ACE mentoring students, when I came out of college back in the early 70s, I said people were hiring me because I was an engineer and what I knew. I said anything that people need to know today, they can Google. What they need from you is for you to be able to communicate, collaborate, think, and be creative, the 4 C's that Wake County is preaching. So I think Wake County is online with what the business community needs, and I think the future is really bright for our students. So with that, I thank you. Before I dismiss you, Joy gave me a note, and she said all the award recipients, if they would be kind enough to come back up at the end of the program, we'd like to get a group picture. So thank you all. We're releasing you early again. You all are great. Thank you.